Do you hear that? Development versus development. Big difference, right? You could be up there. We have an exciting new product in development versus we have a wonderful new product in development. Development versus development. Development, development. You hear the difference? Here's another one. Corporations. Corporations versus corporations. Putting the emphasis on the third syllable. Corporations. It's finding the syllable within the word that needs to be emphasized. Corporation versus corporation. See the difference? This is our new corporation versus this is our new corporation. Here's another one that I hear a lot. Comprehending. Comprehending versus comprehending. Comprehending. We all have problems comprehending the issue versus we all have problems comprehending the issue. Comprehending. 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 Here's another short word that's often missed. Already. Already. We've already looked at that. We've already versus already. We've already looked at that. Already versus already. See the difference? Now you're probably asking yourself, well, how in God's name am I going to know what the right one is? It's a guessing game. Stick around to the end of this video because I have the answer to that and how you could implement it on a daily basis to get those rhythms right. Another big one is understand. Understand. I understand the word versus I understand the word. Understand. It's very clear, isn't it? You got to ask yourself this. You've seen enough American television shows to have created a database of the right rhythm in your head. When you do hit the right rhythm, understand, all of a sudden something clicks in your mind and goes, oh yeah, that's what I remember hearing that actor say on that TV show. I didn't hear him say understand. I heard him say understand. The more you actively listen to American television shows, TV shows, movies, the more you'll be able to create that database that's going to be able to give you that warning alarm. Understand doesn't feel right. Understand feels right. That's what my gut says. You want your gut to start guiding you because I can't be there all the time. Actually, I could be because I'm just a YouTube clip away. Here's another big one that I hear a lot. Execute. Execute versus execute. We must execute the process. We must execute the process. Again, very clear as to where that emphasis is. Here's another one for you. Success. Success. We had success. We had success versus success. Success. We've had great success with the process versus we have great success with the process. See what I mean? Very clear. Another word. Idea. 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 I have a good idea versus I have a good idea. 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 Here's a big one that I hear a lot as well. Articulate versus articulate. Articulate. There's a lot to articulate. There's lots to articulate. And here's one I hear a lot in a lot of tech sort of events. Satisfaction. Satisfaction. We must achieve satisfaction versus satisfaction. We must achieve satisfaction. So now these words are very clear as to where that emphasis is. Now, here comes the big question. How are we supposed to know what that is? It's a guessing game. I'm not in America. I can't tell. I'm not practicing enough. Well, like I said earlier, please make an effort to watch a lot of American television shows or movies so you could really hear where that emphasis is. Because remember, it's like musical. It's a musicality issue. What's your favorite song ever? I bet you if you close your eyes, you know the lyrics to your favorite song so easily because it's ingrained in your head. It's something you like so much. Well, the same thing here. It's learning the musicality of these words. Now, here's what I want you to do on a daily basis. In order to really build that American rhythm along with the pronunciation exercises to really help you not only sound American, but have the rhythm of an American, which is ultimately what's going to carry these American sounds forward convincingly. You could just Google random word generator. And with this, you put in random words, and they have them in syllables. 2-syllable words, 3-syllable words. Put them in there and do about 10 a day. And it's going to randomly generate these words for you. And if you don't know where the right emphasis is, put it in a Google Translator. And it's going to tell you exactly how it sounds. And you'll be able to hear where that emphasis is. And then say it over. And say it over and put it in a sentence. For example, like the words we've learned today. We've already developed an independent idea versus we've already developed an independent idea. Let's create another sentence based on the words we worked on today. We must successfully articulate our corporation's idea. You hear that? You could really hear that rhythm versus we must successfully articulate our corporation's idea. So work on that every day along with the pronunciation exercises, because it's not just in the East Indian language, it's also in every rhythm. Every accent has their own rhythm. And that's one of the biggest dead giveaways when you're listening to somebody who's really mastered the American accent, but there's something off that you can't quite get. And that's usually the last resort, which is the rhythm. Now, to help you along, I put a link down in the description to my 5-star best-selling accent reduction course with reviews from all over the world. I want to share with you 5 simple tricks to sound more American. And it really is a game changer. And stay tuned, because at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you a free resource that is available to everyone all over the world that's really going to give you the edge to master that American accent. Now, I've taught people from all over the world how to master the American accent. CEOs, presidents of companies, big corporations, doctors and lawyers, and people like from the 1980s and 90s. I'm talking the current sitcoms. I'll tell you why. Because they have the best writers in Hollywood coming up with the most brilliant way of coming back with great punchlines. They're the master of really creating that American rhythm that's current. What's funny today was not funny in the 90s and 80s. And what I want you to start doing is this. As you're watching this American sitcom with a remote control, when they do a joke and a punchline, I want you to freeze and repeat not just the words, but the actual rhythm of how they said it, the ups, the downs, and the pauses. This is really going to teach you that American rhythm that is current today. And you have the best Hollywood writers writing this material for you. And they spend hours figuring out what the best punchlines are, so they're doing the work for you. All you have to do is listen and repeat. I'll give you an example. Now, obviously, I can't play that content for copyright reasons, but here's an example of a typical comedy that you would see. Hey, we're having a gathering on Saturday, and I figure if you have nothing else going on, hey, you know what? I'll be there. So now, do you notice that that has a particular rhythm to it? A song, as well as space, that is very typical American. Hey, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba. You could literally hear that rhythm. And the more you do this, the more you start hearing a pattern develop. Your brain will pick up on that pattern to give you that authentically true American rhythm that is essential. Because you could have perfect American sounds, which you could do by watching my 5-star best-selling accent reduction course, which is linked below. But in addition to that, you really have to have the American rhythm down to sound much more authentic. Here's another example. Timmy, you go back to your room and you finish your homework, or else, Dad, chill. Blood pressure, remember? I got this. Again, very specific rhythm to it, very specific tone to it. Da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da, da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Right? Da-da-da. Right? It kind of repeats itself. There's kind of a rhythm to it. And by listening, pausing, repeating that exact same pattern, your brain starts picking up on a pattern. I mean, we all watch TV. All you got to do is just add a pause or two and a repeat. Do this long enough and that pattern will start ingraining in your head. So then when you are collaborating or talking to fellow Americans, you're going to start hearing that as well, picking up those patterns and repeating it. And that's going to escalate you closer and closer and closer to sounding more American. Second thing I want to do that kind of correlates to with the first one is reading comic books out loud. Good old American comic books. They're online, you can find them anywhere. The good thing about that is that you could visually see the physical intention of each line. So if you were practicing the first thing we did, incorporating that rhythm into these comic book readings. For example, well, we meet again. Travis. Yeah, but not for long. You keep up this charade and I'll have you behind bars in no time. Again, very specific rhythm. And you're gonna have action figures along with each bubble of dialogue. So you're gonna be able to see and be able to physically incorporate that rhythm and that sound, which is authentically American. And if you practice that along with the first thing I was telling you about, you're gonna start really mastering the rhythm, the pitch, and the spaces between the words. So far, it's pretty fun, right? Watching comedy and reading comic books, who wouldn't wanna do that? The third thing I want you to start doing, and this is particularly true for people who are not living in the US, is joining chat groups where you could actually have a little chit chat with Americans with authentic American accents. Just chatting back and forth about anything. Because if you're not in the US, then you don't have a luxury of getting out there and chatting and being able to really immerse yourself in the American accent. It's simple, it's easy, fairly inexpensive, or create one of your own if you have friends in the US and you just want to chat about anything, or maybe create groups about specific topics, politics, finance, travel, anything. Create some kind of group that people want to get involved in. And the next thing you know, when you're talking about something you're very passionate about, you're going to forget that you're learning. And your brain is going to start picking up on those American patterns, taking you one step closer to mastering the American accent. The fourth thing that I want you to do is very specific, but really does give you that American accent edge. This is killing the T's at the end of certain words. Because what happens when people pronounce the T's at the end, you know that they're not from here and they sound like they're trying too hard. In words, for example, like about, out. Oh, it's about time. Oh, I'm going out. Unless in words, for example, like about, out. Oh, it's about time. Oh, I'm going out. Unless you're doing theater or stage work in front of thousands of people and you're performing, you really don't need to enunciate those T's. Again, it just sounds like you're trying too hard. Let's try killing those T's and see how much more authentic it sounds. For example, about, out. It's about time. Hey, I'm going out. It's simple, isn't it? Just getting rid of the T. Now, I've left some examples of those words down in the description that I want you to start practicing with. Let's go through a few of them right now. About, out. What? Art, part, set, put, light, point, thought, might. It sounds simple, but it really does give you that authentic edge to sound a little more American. So now, as you're reading out loud your comics and all the other stuff we were talking about, start paying attention to those T's at the end and start killing them. It just gives you that much more of an authentic edge, getting you closer to mastering the American accent. Now, the fifth thing that I want to share with you, and my God, this blew my mind. It's free. It's available to everybody. Makes you appreciate technology. First thing you do is I want you to find any word generator. You can Google this, they're everywhere. That will generate random words. Do 5 words a day, 10 words a day. Amp it up depending on how committed you are to mastering the American accent. So when you generate these words, don't say anything. Copy paste it and put it in Google and put the word and then next to it, pronunciation. Make sure it's set on American English because they have the two options, American English and British English. And then just press play and it's going to tell you how to say it exactly correct. Not only in how to say it, but how the rhythm within the word is said. They even have the option of pressing the slow option where it says the word slower. So you can really listen to it, how it sounds, and the rhythm within that word. And get this. It's got the practice option below the mouth. You press that, repeat it, and it's going to tell you whether you're right on or if you missed it. And you just keep on doing it until you get it right. I'm telling you, you do a few of these words a day. Again, it's going to start creating that database of these correct American sounds in your brain. So then when you miss it, when you mispronounce it, something in your brain is going to trigger and say, whoa, we're off. Let's go back and look at that again. These tricks are simple, readily available. If you have an internet connection, it's readily available, free and fun. Implement that along with the other exercises I have on this YouTube channel to really give you that edge. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel because I offer this content on a regular basis. Social gathering can be very, very intimidating for a lot of people, especially if English is not your first language, or if you're very shy or introverted, not the life of the party. You've heard the saying, some people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of death. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you game-changing tips that could take your communication to the next level. Hi there, I'm Gabriel Barafato from GB Voice Academy. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my YouTube channel because I share content like this on a regular basis to my viewers who I want to help them be able to express what they have in their hearts dynamically, impactfully, and gracefully. Oftentimes in a communication situation, we, either by mistake or on purpose, find ourselves in a group scenario where we're talking to one or more people in a conversation, whether it's professional or social. And we're in this group listening to the person who's currently talking, but just because the eyes are not on us, the person who's currently talking, but just because the eyes are not on us doesn't mean that we are not the focus in this communication dance floor. Remember, listening actively is the key ingredient to being an effective communicator. There's more than you can do than just sitting around and being a passive listener. You could be what I call a cheerleader. Now, what I mean by cheerleader, when someone is engaged in a conversation or is part of a group and is the one talking, when what they're saying is being supported by a listener, whether it's one-on-one or within a group, it supports the current speakers in what they're saying. You're not just listening passively. Now, what I mean by being a cheerleader is encouraging the current speaker positively with positive small remarks to help elevate them, be more confident, and tell the story more effectively. You're helping them. You're being, remember that word, compassionate. And believe it or not, people in that group will notice. Did you know that in Hollywood, they pay people to go in studio audiences to laugh and engage in whatever is being filmed in a sitcom? That's right. People get get paid to be cheerleaders. Now, here's an example of a group conversation with somebody cheering them on. Now, remember, you don't want to be overbearing. You don't want to overtake the conversation, but there's an art. There's a way of doing it by really listening, knowing when to come in, which we're going to cover later, making them feel empowered, and in return, making you a great participant in this communication dance, whether it's with one individual or more than one. So it's down to the wire, okay? So we only have like literally just a couple of hours before we have to hand in this project. And we have no more fuel left. We've literally been up for 3 days straight. Are you serious? So Jordan comes in with these 12 dozen donuts and double espressos for everybody. Wow. I mean, he was a lifesaver. Yeah, that's Jordan for you. He really knows his donuts. We packed our car and we were at the board meeting within a half an hour. On fumes, but we did it. Hey man, it's a testament to your hard work, right? Hey, this guy gets it. So without really saying much, you're exuding so much positivity in this conversation, whether it's with one person or more than one. You're a positive player in this game of communication, this dance. This goes back to the improv principles that I have in my earlier videos. The game of improvisation is giving, listening, and then agreeing and responding back with something to heighten the scenario, to heighten the discussion. Again, it's always about empowering the person you're speaking to. I'm always talking about empowering the speaker. And you're probably thinking, well, how's it going to help me in my communication? Did it feel productive? Now let's bring in the second person I was telling you about. Somebody who is not as knowledgeable, but is very passionate and wants to share that passion with you. And you have a conversation with him about cars and automotives. All of a sudden, he starts sharing with you what the little that he knows, and you start sharing back, and you both start collaborating, giving and receiving, giving and receiving. Now at the end of half an hour of speaking with this individual, how do you feel? You're going to enjoy that conversation much better than somebody who overpowers and takes over conversation, regardless of how knowledgeable they are of the topic at hand. Listening is so important. Who is the one that you're going to want to talk to in the future? The person that talked your ear off, although he was very knowledgeable, or the person who is very passionate about the subject and was collaborating with you? You're going to want to speak with that individual. And that's what the foundation of all the principles that I'm teaching you about being a compassionate listener, about being a very generous conversation. Stay silent. Do you notice in that clip I showed you about being the cheerleader, there was an instinct, an art of knowing when to come in. In a conversation, which you will hear if you listen to a lot of American television or sitcoms, there's a rhythm to a conversation. When you hear the da-da-da, that's usually a gateway or an opening for you to now come in, to add a cheerleader remark or contribute to the conversation with your own story or anecdote, heightening the conversation. Remember, you don't want to just blur it in with stuff. Blur it in with something that will heighten the story, heighten the speaker. Let's look at an example from the conversation we were listening to earlier. We've literally been up for 3 days straight trying to get this project done. Do you hear that? Trying to get this project done. When you hear the range of that conversation coming down, that's usually an opening where you can come in. Versus, we've literally been up for 3 hours straight trying to get this project done, and da-da-da. So do you see that da-da-da means that there's more to come? So again, this is an instinct. This is something you have to start practicing or learning to become a very great communicator, and knowing when to move with your dance partner using the dance analogy in communication. Let's look at another example. So Jordan comes in with these 12 dozen donuts and double espressos for everybody. And double espressos for everybody. Bam, there's your window. Da-da-da-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Versus another espresso for everybody, and then he went da-da-da-da-da. So again, it's about listening, knowing, developing that instinct of knowing when a conversation is about to end. When you hear somebody talking and then the pitch starts to lower, that's usually your time to come in if you want to. You don't necessarily have to in every spot or every window that's available, but it's your opening to, again, contribute and heighten the conversation. Because look what happens when we don't follow that pattern. So it's down to the wire, okay? So we only have like literally just a couple of hours, and we have no more fuel. We put in a 16-hour day yesterday. So, but we're okay. Now, having just discussed the right way to come in, when you listen to this, it sounds painful to hear somebody bluntly come in when they're not supposed to come in. Well, that's good. That means you're learning. That means that you're developing that instinct of knowing when and when not to come in. There was no window in that conversation for you to come in. Not to mention, the person that did come in wasn't heightening the information. He wasn't supporting the speaker. He was just bluntly coming in and telling him about his story and his scenario, sort of taking control of the conversation, bullying his way in. Would you want to open a conversation with that individual? Or would you be like, yeah, you know what? I know where this is going. We have to be very sensitive. We have to listen. You've been in those situations where you're, say, talking to 3 or more people and you're not really a part of the conversation. Situations where you're, say, talking to 3 or more people and you're not really a part of the conversation. Maybe it's because, again, you're shy, or maybe English is not your first language, so you tend to hold back. The more you don't participate, the more intensely awkward it's going to feel. So if you have the mantle, if you're in a group scenario and you're talking, you need to be sensitive to that. Be sensitive to the ones that are not involved. Ever feed bread to pigeons in the park? And do you ever feel for that little skinny pigeon over there on the side that is too, I don't know, maybe not brave enough to go in for the bread? And you kind of want to go over there and feed that lonely pigeon? It's the same similarity when it comes to being in a group conversation. Bring them in. You're chatting about a trip you did last summer, and there's somebody there that's sort of eyeing you timidly and not really participating. Yeah, we went up to the summits yesterday and we skied. It was fantastic. Hey, Amy, didn't you say you were a skier? Boom, that's all it takes. Just a little question, possibly. And if you're smart enough and if you have enough instinct, knowing that person, you'll be able to feed them something that they could latch on to and contribute and then help them be a part of the conversation. And you know what happens? If you're in a group scenario and you start doing that, you start engaging people, looking at people like we were talking about, and bringing them in, all of a sudden, you become sort of the alpha communicator of the group. People look at you to know how to properly conduct a room, a conversation. They know that you will give everybody a voice. And that just makes you a much more powerful, dynamic conversationalist. You're conducting the room. Again, you are the conductor. Now, it's not our job, our goal to overpower any conversation, but if you really think about it, we're not. We're not chatting about us. We're looking at people, we're connecting with people, we're bringing them in, getting them involved, enriching and empowering you and the room, making this whole conversation a fun experience. It's in our instinct, it's in our DNA to connect with other people. Countless studies have shown that rats, for example, in laboratories, when they are social, when they are involved with other rats, they live longer, even if they have a terrible diet. It's in our best interest. It's healthier for us to compassionately connect, engage, empower, heighten a conversation. Now make sure you check out my